In the late 19th century, America was obsessed with progress. Railroads stitched distant towns together. Electricity was beginning to replace gaslight. Factories promised steady work. Medicine was becoming more scientific. Education was becoming more accessible. To many people, it felt like the future had arrived. But rapid growth always creates blind spots. And inside those blind spots, people disappear. Chicago, more than any other city, embodied both promise and anonymity. Entire neighborhoods had been erased by fire. New buildings rose quickly in their place. People arrived daily from rural towns and foreign countries, often without family, records, or anyone who would notice if they vanished. Herman Webster Mudgett, also known as H. Holmes, understood this better than almost anyone. He was born in 1861 in New Hampshire. Teachers noted his intelligence. Classmates later describe him as observant, quiet, and unsettlingly calm. He learned how to perform trust. As a young man, Holmes studied medicine, not because he wanted to heal, but because medicine offered something more useful: authority. Doctors were respected. They were believed. They were given access to bodies, records, chemicals, and systems few others understood. Chemistry, physiology, not as moral knowledge, but as mechanical knowledge. He learned how bodies fail, how death can be explained, how paperwork can be altered to tell a convincing story. While still young, Holmes committed fraud. What mattered most was not the act itself, but what he learned from it. He learned that documentation mattered more than truth. He learned that institutions trusted forms. And most importantly, he learned that consequences moved slowly. He was refining. He changed his name, changed his history, changed his posture and tone. He became Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, a calm, well-spoken professional who looked people in the eye and listened carefully. People trusted him almost immediately. Holmes purchased a pharmacy in the Englewood neighborhood. Customers liked him. He was polite, attentive, and patient. He remembered names. He gave advice. To passers-by, it appeared to be a hotel. But Holmes never allowed anyone to see the full design. Contractors were hired briefly, then dismissed. Walls were built, torn down, and rebuilt. No one ever stayed long enough to understand the whole structure. This was deliberate. The building became a maze by design. Hallways that led nowhere. Doors that locked only from the outside. Rooms without windows. Staircases that ended at ceilings. From the outside, it looked ordinary. Inside, it was something else entirely. Holmes referred to it simply as his building. Later, journalists would call it the murder castle. But the building alone was not the weapon. Holmes was. What made Holmes especially dangerous was not cruelty, but detachment. He did not experience people as people. He experienced them as variables. Psychologists later noted that Holmes displayed traits of extreme emotional disconnection. He observed human emotion the way others observe weather. He learned patterns. He learned reactions. He learned how to simulate concern without ever feeling it. This allowed him to function undetected. He attended church. He paid bills. He socialized. He spoke calmly. Nothing about him suggested danger. Chicago police were overwhelmed. Missing persons were common. Fires destroyed records. People moved frequently. Holmes blended perfectly into the noise. What finally brought him down was not murder. It was greed. Holmes attempted a complex insurance fraud involving an accomplice. The plan failed. The accomplice was arrested and chose to speak. For the first time, investigators followed Holmes seriously. They traced insurance policies, marriage licenses, property records, death certificates. Then they searched the building. Even investigators became lost inside it. No one could say. Holmes confessed, then recanted, then confessed again. His accounts changed constantly. Sometimes he exaggerated. Sometimes he minimized. He seemed to enjoy the confusion. Historians still debate the true number of victims. The records are incomplete. The evidence was damaged. The building itself was eventually destroyed. But the number matters less than the method. Holmes did not rely on force, he relied on trust. In 1896, H. Holmes was executed. Before his death, he requested to be buried deep in concrete, fearing grave robbers would treat his body the way he treated others. Even in death, he sought control. Chicago moved on, the building was erased. The site repurposed, the city grew. But Holmes left behind something far more disturbing than ruins. He proved that respectability can be a disguise, that intelligence without empathy can be lethal, that systems designed to protect can be exploited quietly. H. Holmes did not look like a monster. He looked like a professional. And that may be the darkest part of his story.